Let's get into this. Let's And by the way, they're saying warriors there. I know it sounds like something else. What it says in the Cardi B song, they're saying warriors.
I said certified fleek, 7 days a week.
God bless me with my boutique.
God bless me with my boutique outside just for every physique.
Speaking in tongues, creating a space. That was a weak bass drop. They at least needed to do a better bass drop on that.
Watch what you say when you come around.
Do you like that that photoshopped lion in there? It's totally, the lion's totally in the room with them. I hope you're ready, Terry. The king's coming back.
That is awful. Oh. Why?
I don't know why. I don't know. I don't even know what to make of all of this. He's the super and I'm the glue. That seems kind of synergistic, don't you think? We're the glue that holds God to us.
Apparently so.
Trying to make your time clock in, your time is over. Say hello to Jehovah. Say hello to Jehovah.
Oh,
Jehovah. That's God's rapper name is Jehovah.
Say hello to Jehovah. That's
well, that's God's rapper name, Terry. Get with the times, man. Okay,
what?
that's the Christian Christian parody of WAP, worship and prayer. Oh, God's rap name is Jehovah.
Jehovah. Yeah. Hey, have you met my main man JC? You want to get into the club? You gotta know my main man JC.
Oh man.
I was a little envious.
What does chat think of this? Did Elijah approve of this? No, I'm pretty sure Elijah didn't approve of this. I'm pretty sure that when Elijah faced the prophets of Baal, he did not do hip hop rap and like he didn't do that. I threw up in my mouth a little. Thank you, chat. Thank you for thanks for feeling our pain, chat. It's wonderful. So Terry, what did you think of the fly lyrical workings of whatever this rapper lady's name was?
Her lyrical ability is unquestionable. It's sad because I like rap and I like dense multisyllabic rap, and so that was just overall disappointing. Her scale was off. I'm sorry, Jehovah doesn't rhyme with hope. It's not okay.
Listen. I find the cultural sophistication of this rap song utterly oblivious to the actual hip-hop community and how it actually affects us. This has been NPR. We have been discussing hip-hop in the Christian music scene. Well, most Christian rappers would even see that as being horrendous. That's not good. It's just not good.
Well, let's talk. Why is there even at the beginning the notion of Christian rap? Why do we need to seek conformity to the world's standards in a version of music? And why is it that we have to Christianize everything? Like, that song, WAP, the actual original disgusting version, which is just indicative of how perverse our culture has become, Leave that die with the culture that's dying with it. You don't need to appropriate that somehow into Christian thought and thinking. And what that shows you is the sort of amorphous identity that Protestantism leaves their congregants with. Is they have no ability to derive any sense of culture or belonging from where they actually are, because it's an amorphous blob of worship, right, of praxis, that they don't actually see what they're supposed to be doing or what they're supposed to be imitating. And so they go out and they look at the world and they say, let's just throw some holy language on that. Obviously, we're making a callback to a horrible, song about avarice and just the worst sins of mankind. But that's fine, because we're going to make it about prayer. And even then, we're going to give you horrible theologies about prayer in the midst of it.
Exactly.
I don't quite understand why Christians want to take this material and just it's already crappy. We don't need to involve it. And we don't need Christian music as it exists. Music can exist in its own form, and Christians can perform it, or we have Christian music. It's in your hymnal, right?
Exactly.
We have Christian music. It's your order of service. Why can't we be identified with that form of music?
Well, that leads into the idea, the lex orandi, lex credendi, lex vivendi, right? So what the law of worship and prayer, the law of prayer is the law of belief, and it is the law of living. So what we're taught to sing on a Sunday morning, and what we're taught to pray, because that's really what hymns are. It's just prayer set to tunes, right? That's what we're going to end up believing. That's going to be our credo, and that's going to end up being, how we then live. So if someone is getting their spiritual formation from the Christian parody of WAP, and, I don't think that's going to sustain any Christian over time. And then you get into the horrendous theology that the rap has, prayer warriors, thinking of prayer as in it's something that we have to have a tier system set up. Like, some Christians are better at prayer than others, and it's like that goes completely against what, even if you just look at the small catechism and the teaching of the Lord's Prayer, it goes completely contradicting everything that, especially us as Lutherans, would believe on prayer. This concept of prayer warriors or a tiered system,
Well, and going back just a little bit and talking and how that leads to prayer is, if you not just necessarily hymnody, right? But if you go into, for example, a regular Baptist church, and let's scale it back to I'm assuming they don't go to a regular Baptist church. I'll give the regular Baptist church a break. Let's say they're going to a regular Baptist church. You walk in, you might see a cross. Outside of that, it's an event center. Right. There's no genuine Christian identity to it. There's no catechetical value. You're just standing inside a room, typically with an elevated stage, and there might be a cross. And I remember I attended a Baptist church where we actually moved the cross to the side, and it was really bothering me because it was not symmetrical. And the reason we did that was because the screen had to come down for the videos and such. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So we did that. Thank God I'm no longer Baptist. And yeah, so when you go into church, you walk into my church, it's unmistakably a Christian church, right? We have the paraments, we have the altar, we have a beautiful altarpiece. We have stained glass windows depicting a Christ's ascension, Christ's crucifixion, all these beautiful things. Like, it's unmistakably Christian, and there you form an identity around this sort of community you have in Christ. When you go into these sort of non-denominational churches, you drive past them or something, you look and it looks like a factory was remade, and it has like some weird name on it, like The Rock Church or something like that, or like I don't know.
Now, what would you say, Terry, to the objection? Because we're obviously going to get the objection, and this is we're going to go down a tiny bit of a rabbit hole, but I promise we'll circle back to prayer. But this goes into the fellowship aspect of some things. With that being said, a lot of people will put on Luther specifically, saying, well, if it wasn't for Luther, we wouldn't have these problems in the church. We wouldn't have the Christian parody of WAP or something like that. Luther is the reason why we have all of this, these people wanting to move the cross out of the sanctuary or get rid of the liturgy or stuff like that. Is that Luther's fault? And I guess the follow-up question would be, if that is Luther's fault, then why are so many Lutherans still willing to be considered a part of the Church Catholic if that was Luther's intent? If Luther's intent was just to get rid of church history and to get rid of the beauty of the liturgy and what had come before us, why are we Lutherans even holding on to any of this?
The objection that Luther started the sort of, I guess, what would you call it, like liturgical decline that happened as a result of the latter Protestant movements. I mean, that's completely undone when you examine his positions regarding the peasants' revolutions and Andreas Karlstadt. He wasn't seeking to get rid of traditional ways. To be certain, Luther allowed for us to discard of things that they became idolatrous, right? And you should. But he didn't. The idea that it was his start, is his beginning, when he was pretty strict on keeping these. As a matter of confessional subscription, I think it's Augsburg Confession, Article 24. Don't quote me on that. It's somewhere in there that we keep those rights of the church.
Right. We don't abolish the Mass, right.
What is it?
We don't abolish the Mass. We actually keep it more pure than our adversaries. That's what the Augsburg Confession says, yeah. Right.
And so, well, they're leading into that. Yeah, no, Luther, that being derivative of Lutheranism, I think if you look at contemporary thinkers during the time of Luther, sure, or during immediately after his time, yeah, you can look at people who so wanted to divorce themselves from the Catholic Church that they began to dispose of things, and we're thinking of the radically Reformed, those that followed Zwingli, those that followed Calvin. And even the Anabaptist movement, the Springfieldians, those weird guys. There were movements during that time where they didn't even allow a Bible in church. You were meant to speak the words extemporaneously. So to think that everything had developed, and this is during the time of Luther, to pretend that there was one, unity in the Catholic Church prior to Luther is a joke. And then to pretend that Luther is responsible for liturgical or, union or decline of unity within the church is ridiculous. Luther argued for all those things, and it's because Luther argued for all those things that we have a doctrine of fellowship, where we divorce ourselves from those radical Protestant movements because they threw out both the baby, the bathwater, and the crucifix. And they've divorced themselves entirely from the means of grace that we generally, as Lutherans, and Lutherans are an ecclesiastical religion, right? We base our religion and our practice of religion in and around an ecclesiastical institution, mainly, the church, the sacraments, and the word of God being spoken by the minister. That is what a Lutheran does. And so it's pretty clear that we have kept many of the same even affectations of Roman Catholics at the time. And that's one of the things that I constantly tell people is we are genuinely the inheritors of the Western Roman Catholic Church. And Rome, as it exists today, is the true Protestant.